Alright, and this brings us to our last discussion question. Very interesting question, this too. And let's take a look. Okay, one out of every two businesses in City M are small businesses. 10% of all businesses in City M are bakeries. If all bakeries in the city are small businesses, are at least 50% of the bakeries in City M managed by men. Statement 1, 30% of the small businesses managed by women in City M are bakeries. And statement 2, 40%, excuse me, 40% of the small businesses operating in City M are managed by women. Now, I think you would have lost it. I also, first time I read it, I was like, what's going on? And this is a very typical GMAT question. It is very confusing. And if you read it as fast as I just read, we would be lost. It is not, a very difficult question, but it is a very logic intensive question. And we need to know the basics of percentage, and then we have to break it down. The most important aspect in this question, which is true for many questions in GMAT, is breaking it down as much as possible into minute bits of information and implications. So let's take a look. First, the concept of percentages, let's refresh that. I hope you remember this. 10% of 40 is 10 upon 100 into 40, and that is 4, right? If I say 10 is what percent of 40, what you would do is 10 by 40 into 100, right? If you wanted to solve it, you would do it like this. 10 it is means equal to what, let's say, is x. Percent is division by 100 of is times and 40. If you solve it, you get x equal to 10 by 40 into 100, which is 25%, right? So this also we can do using the basic concept, that is part upon whole is percent upon 100. Okay, percent is nothing but a ratio, a proportion. All right, out of whatever you have out of the whole is how much out of 100. That quantity is the percentage, right? So if you get 10 out of 20, it means 10 by 20 is what percentage out of 100, and we say it is 50%, because 10 by 20 is half, and half into 100 is 50%. Great. So I hope that refreshes all your memory of percentage and how we can calculate it. There is an important tip here, which in fact we're going to use in this question as well. That if you have percentage questions and there are no numbers given in the question, all right, it's only percentages throughout the question and including the two statements, then we can start with the base as 100, as life becomes a little easier when we do that. Great. So let's see and apply this. And let's break it down, like I said. Let's reread it. I'm just gonna write each sentence down and we're gonna read it carefully and see what it implies. One out of every two businesses in City M are small businesses implies that 50% are small businesses. Correct? Right? One out of two. Okay, now let's use the tip that we just discussed. Suppose I take 100 businesses, because notice in this problem there was no numbers given, it was only percentages, right? So we can start with the total as 100. Okay. Now this line says 50% are small businesses, that means 50 are small businesses, and I'll use the short form SP. Great. Next line says 10% of all businesses are bakeries. 10% of all businesses are bakeries implies that 10% of all businesses, we've taken total as 100, 10% of 100 is how much? Exactly. That means that there are 10 bakeries. Right here we have it as 10 bakeries. Perfect. Great. And now let's let's go to the next line. It says all bakeries are small businesses. All the bakeries, that means all of these 10 are small businesses. So total small businesses is 50, and after them there are 10 which are bakeries. Alright, so 10 bakeries are all small businesses. Now we have really broken down, we have all the data. Now let's look at the question. Are at least 50% of the bakeries managed by men? Alright. How many bakeries do we have? We have 10 bakeries, and the question is, are at least 50% of the bakeries managed by men? That means are at least 5 bakeries, because we know that the total is 10 bakeries. Out of that, 50% means 5. So the question becomes, are at least 5 bakeries managed by men? This is the most crucial step. All GMAT questions of data sufficiency, almost all, require us to reframe the question, and I call this as the derived question. This is the crucial step. Now we are going to shoot for this answer. If any statement gives us an answer to this question, it is sufficient. Now we are not going to go back to the original. Now we have broken it down into bits and pieces, and this is what we are now gonna shoot for. Great. Now let's look at the statement 1. Statement 1 says 30% of small businesses managed by women are bakeries. Now I want you to pay great attention here. 30% of, I'm gonna underline this part, okay? Whatever is after of, let's underline. Alright, now tell me how many small businesses are managed by women? Because it says 30% of, and then it says small businesses managed by women are bakeries. Now this is important. Do we know how many small businesses are managed by women yet? No. And therefore, let's say that the small businesses managed by women is X. Alright? 30% of this are bakeries. Alright? So, that implies that 30% of X equal to 0.3X are bakeries managed by women. Okay? Out of the small businesses which are managed by women, which is X, there are 30% which are bakeries. So 0.3X are bakeries. They will be managed by women. Okay. Now, what does this further imply? That out of the 10 bakeries, right, there are a total of 10 bakeries. Out of them, 0.3X are being managed by women. Okay. And the remaining 5 bakeries, that is 10 minus 0.3X, are the number of bakeries which are managed by men. And you might recollect now that this exactly is our question, that is this number greater than 5 is the question. Our question is, are the number of bakeries managed by men at least 5? Alright, so can we answer that? Obviously not, because here we do not know X, that is, how many of the small businesses are managed by women. Therefore, this statement 1 is NS, not sufficient to answer the required question. Awesome. I hope you got it. This is a very logic intensive question. The concept is only percentage. But another very important concept here is percentage of. Okay, whenever you have percentage of, after that I want you to mentally underline the entire part after of, right? Because if I say 30% of small businesses, it means something else, because the small businesses number is how many have we taken? Small businesses is 50 small businesses. So if you were to translate this only till here, we would say 30% of small businesses, that would be 30% of 50, and you would say 15 are bakeries. It would be completely wrong, because this of is small businesses managed by women. Please pay attention to this. This is a very typical error which happens in GMAT. After all, whatever is there underlined, I'm repeating it several times because I want you to make sure that you do not make this mistake in the test. Alright, so we took that as X because this is a complete unknown. Then therefore the businesses which are managed by men becomes 50 minus X. The percentage of bakeries becomes 30% of X, which is 0.3X, which are the bakeries managed by the women. The number of bakeries managed by men therefore becomes 10 minus 0.3X, and that is an unknown, and therefore the statement 1 is not sufficient. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great, let's come to statement 2. Statement 2 says 40% of small businesses are managed by women. 40% of small businesses are managed by women. So this time we have, after of just small businesses, I'm just again gonna put that over there in a bracket. Okay, and we know that how many small businesses are there? It is 50, and therefore we are gonna say 40% of 50, 40 by 100 into 50, which is 20. Alright, so that is 20 small businesses are managed by women. And this implies that out of the 50 small businesses, 20 are managed by women, and therefore the remaining 30 are by men. Excellent. I hope you're getting this entire train of logic. Now the question again, how many of the bakeries are managed by men? Are we getting that answer over here? Again, remember, do not combine with statement 1. Is this page enough to give us the answer that how many of the bakeries are managed by men? Or the question rather, that are at least 5 of the bakeries managed by men? The derived question. Answer is no. And therefore, the statement 2 is not sufficient. We are not able to give an answer. And then, this is when we combine the two statements. Again, remember, we only combine the two statements when each individually is not sufficient. Alright, now let's recap. Statement 1 had given us that the number of small businesses managed by men is 50 minus x. I just retake it to that line. It's right here. The number of small businesses managed by men is 50 minus x. From statement 2, we knew that 30 out of the small businesses are managed by men. Correct. And therefore, if I combine the two, 50 minus x is 30, gives x equal to 20, which is number of small businesses managed by women. Great. Now, just go back. Over here, if you remember, this was our last line from the statement 1. The number of bakeries managed by men is 10 minus 0.3x. If I use that directly over here, then I can actually from this point go directly to the answer. Number of bakeries managed by men equal to 10 minus 0.3x equal to, if I put this x equal to 20 here, then I get 10 minus 0.3 into 20 becomes 6, and therefore we get 4 as the answer. And does that answer our question? Yes. Number of bakeries which are managed by men, are they greater than or at least equal to 5? Answer is a definite no, because the answer is 4, which is less than 5. We get a definite no. Hence, the statement together is allowing us, hence the two statements together is allowing us to come to an answer, and the answer is a definite no. That no, the number of bakeries by man are less than 5. Therefore, together they are sufficient because we get a definite answer. Another important aspect to remember, when we get a definite no as the answer in data sufficiency, that is considered as sufficient because we have a definite answer, hence C is the answer. So let's recap. Alright, so statement 1 gives us that the number of small businesses managed by men is 50 minus x. From statement 2, we got that 30 of the small businesses are by men. We equate these two, we get 50 minus x equal to 30, gives x equal to 20. We could go directly now and say that the number of bakeries managed by men is 10 minus 0.3x is 10 minus 6 equal to 4, and therefore we can say that the two statements together are allowing us to give a definite answer to the question, hence together sufficient. So here I've just explained this part again, where from 1 we knew that 30% of the small businesses are managed by women. are bakeries implies that out of the 20 small business managed by women, 6 are bakeries and the remaining 14 are not bakeries, which also implies that